All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Brand Builder TV, where we want to share with you how to brand and market in 2020, not 2004, as my man Gary Vee says. Couldn't have said it any better. I'm pumped for this episode because we love to share with you people that walk the walk, talk the talk, have real credentials to back up what they share. And this man absolutely does. To the level, I've been following him on social media for quite a while. I've been to 3 or 4 of his events in Southern California, here, San Diego, LA. Just was at finally got a chance to meet him up in LA that he spoke at. My buddy Bedros was at that event. So that's why he's actually on this show. And then he did a show in Newport Beach that I went to. And Dan, this is how I'm going to make you feel really important. It's the first time I missed a UFC pay-per-view in a very long time to go to your show. So I want to really, people that know me know that's major kudos. But I'm going to give it to you. You can give us that 30,000 foot view, but let me share with everyone what I know about you. And it's going to show the power of real branding in the social media world. This is the first time we've actually had a chance to converse, correct? So here's what I do know about you through your branding and your marketing. Youngest entrepreneur to take a business public, and I believe that was a energy drink.
Yep.
Okay, and founder now of a digital marketing firm.
Yep.
Okay, so again, that's the power of real branding. This is the first time we've been able to converse. So again, here's my title for Dan Fleyshman. The influencer that influences influencers. There you go, my man. The stage is yours.
So essentially the fast forward version is, in high school, I trademarked a catchphrase, "Who's your daddy?" for over 300 products. By 18, we had done over $1 million in sales. By 19, we did 9.5 million. 23, we took it public to launch an energy drink under the same brand name. Next 4 years, I don't really remember much. I just sold into 55,000 retail stores in America and became the 7th largest energy drink in the world. And so that was my focus for that time. Then on the 10-year anniversary, I started the company at 17. When I was 27, I resigned so I could put another feather in my cap. I want to start an online poker site. Within 10 weeks, we were live, and I signed Dan Bilzerian, DJ Steve Aoki, Playboy Playmates, and all these different characters to become the faces of this poker site. Built this big brand, and all of a sudden, boom, online poker is shut down in America. My company is worth $65 million. I'm doing 7 figures a month, and then I got to close it down.
Wow.
I was like, oh man, what do I do?
Yeah. I mean.
So I realized I didn't want to have all my eggs in one basket ever again. So I started consulting for land-based casinos. And I also said, you know what, I'm going to become an angel investor in different companies. So I've angel invested into 36 different companies, mostly products, mobile apps, restaurant chains, and physical things that people can help them. And that became my passion. The social media agency was my day job. So for the last 7-8 years, I spent around $60 million with influencers for brands, products, and mobile apps. And so the products that people see on Instagram, whether you love them or hate them, that's what we do. It's the tea products, the fashion products, the DraftKings, Lyft, Postmates, everything in between. We're doing those campaigns to build those brands up, which obviously is a good fit for what your show is about, brand building. And so building brands is my whole entire world, as my day job. Mm-hmm. It's actually the only course I ever created is about learning personal branding, because personal branding is the most important thing. You're a personal brand, whether you like it or not. So it's up to you to tell your story, which is what this podcast it's probably about, is telling your story for your company or your personal brand. And my main passion is my charity. So we make backpacks for the homeless with 150 emergency supply items inside. And we give those backpacks out for the last 8 years. It's a 0% charity. So I cover all expenses, all overhead, all costs. And I don't ask people to donate. I just want them to replicate. Go do your own. I'll do it for you if you want me to. I'm happy if you go make Ziploc bags and give it out to the homeless too. It's fine.
Wow. Let's go back a little bit, because I want to be able to connect I always want to be able to connect to the audience and try and think about questions and things, putting ourselves in their shoes. first and foremost, they're going to say, all right, Dan, that is an unbelievable resume, but let's go back a little bit. Where did this entrepreneurial spirit start, man? Where did you, I mean, how did you get it?
Yeah, so it was just by necessity,
Okay.
right? Like when we first, my mom, my family didn't have any money, so there was no choice, right? And so in school, I was always selling candy bars to the classmates, and when I was in high school, I was working 3 jobs simultaneously to save up money for college, so that my family couldn't pay for it and shouldn't have to pay for it. And I just, I saved up as much money as I could, so I didn't have to be a burden on them. And so it was, by default, I had to do these things. And it's also the reason why 20 years later, why I still work so hard all the time, because I know what it's like. I didn't have any, we didn't grow up with any money. And so, you have to work. And that's why I put so many eggs in so many different baskets, is I don't want to have that situation ever again. And I know how important it is and how fast I've watched a lot of very wealthy friends become not wealthy. And I've watched a lot of athletes go broke and borrow money from me. And I've watched a lot of situations with rappers and celebrities that had a ton of money and fame, and now they're, need to borrow 20K here and there to survive. And so it's fascinating to watch it. And I just want to do everything I can to prevent that for myself, my family, my staff, the people around me as well.
Yeah, and I think we can even go deeper on that too for the audience. Like one of the quotes I have on my wall in my office here is, being an entrepreneur is neither a part-time or full-time job. It literally is a lifestyle. And when I see things that you post on your social media or attend some of your events, if you asked me to define that, I would say you've created a lifestyle versus a work ethic. And I think that's so key. And I learned that from Lorenzo Fertitta, right? He was being interviewed, and they said, how did you guys create this much drive? He said, because it's a lifestyle. I'm 10 years old. We're having dinner, and my dad's talking to me about the station casinos, right? I'm 17 and we're doing walkthroughs, meeting everyone on the floor. He said, it becomes a lifestyle. And I think, Dan, I'd love for you to talk about, we get thrown up on Instagram all day long about hustle and grind. And I think the inspired action is so misunderstood and overlooked, because that maps back to lifestyle, which I believe, tell me if I'm wrong here, that's what you've created.
Right. I make everything part of my life. So my charity is part of my work. My work is part of my charity. My life, my events is part of my work. Everything I do is all tied together. And so whether I'm doing 10 Zoom calls today, or I'm throwing an event tonight, or I'm doing it's all part of the life. And I enjoy it, so it doesn't feel like draining. Right. And it also doesn't get mundane, right? I add in and incorporate other things to make that energy, and to keep my staff excited, to keep me mentally excited, to keep the people around me. And so a lot of times people get into the same thing. They do the same thing for 8 years in a row, and nothing tastes good 8 years in a row. If your favorite food is sushi from Nobu, I promise you, if I got you an infinite gift card to Nobu, you wouldn't want to go on month 3. Right? You wouldn't go 90 days in a row. At some point it becomes, and so I try to do those things to add in that flavor and add in that excitement to everybody around me.
And I also believe this is such a big part of this conversation too, is your own self-awareness, level of awareness, meaning I have friends back east that have very successful businesses, but they are business owners. I think there's a difference to identify whether you're an actual entrepreneur or a business owner, because that creativity, right, that mundane creeps up much quicker than it is for the either employee or the business owner that might own that storefront or own that, go in at a certain time, leave at 5 o'clock. And that, if that's their identity and that's who they are, and that's what gets their juices flowing, God bless them. But I think so many entrepreneurs are that creative mindset, to where, talk about self-awareness, how important you think that is in pretty much any aspect of life.
Yeah, I know who I am and what I am and what I'm good at when I suck at. Like I know I'm an introvert, So if you and I went to the bar and Dave and I go to the bar, I'm not going to walk up to celebrities or girls or business people. I'm just not going to. I'm not going to walk up to them to interact with them. So because that's who I am, I throw events. And if I throw an event, then those business people, those celebrities, those people come up to me and by default want to introduce me to other people similarly because I'm the one hosting the event. So whether it's a charity event, a business event, a networking event, etc., I created those events because I know that I'm an introvert. I'm self-aware of that scenario. And so I know that I will talk to them. I can speak really well if you come up to me, but I'm never going to walk up to you first. And so
I love it.
When I'm hosting, it's a much different situation because it's my environment. You want to bring people over to me because I'm the host. That's why I tell people why they should consider throwing events, whether they're virtual now or back in person soon, is you become edified. You become who everybody wants to be around and talk to. It just automatically levels you up.
And here's the other thing that it does, and this is so important in today's world that we live in, is that's why I'm such a fan of podcasts, right? So I didn't know you. You didn't, or I should say, I knew of you. You didn't know me. So when I go to introduce myself, I'm coming with a giving hand, right? Yep. And I'll be honest with you, Dan. I had a mobile show called Monster Motivator TV from 2016, 2017. Was out of Tom Bilyeu's place, Brad Lee's place, and I still, with all the events and all the networking and business networking that I've been a part of over the last 20 plus years, I don't know of another medium, for lack of a better term, than a podcast to create a real relationship. Because you're speaking before the show, a lot of times you're going to speak after the show, and you're going to get to know each other during the show. And again, you're coming with a giving hand instead of, you're at a level where I'm sure a lot of people are asking, right? What can I get from Dan? Versus, hey, man, what can I give? And then see where it all unfolds.
Yep. So what's interesting is if you are able to build a personal brand via podcast, it's a fantastic medium because it's not that expensive. It's a perfect excuse to call on anybody you want. Call your idols, call your rivals, call anybody you want in between.
Yep.
It's a great situation. If you're not able to build a podcast on your own, take the time to go on to other people's podcasts and build relationships with them and still build your personal brand along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a great segue, man, for the, obviously for the big news of the week is Joe Rogan, right? And what he's been able to do with his personal brand. And I've done a little bit of overturning some stones in the last 48 hours on that. And I think some of the things he's done is some people might not really know some of the things, and I want to share with them what I know and then get your input on that. One of the things that jumps right out at me is he did it, from my understanding, did a licensing deal. Nobody bought his actual brand, which I think is
crazy. Amazing.
And I think it's genius, right? He still has control, and it's only a 3-year deal from my understanding. So now we can reevaluate, right? And then we either run it back again for another 3 years or we part ways, right? So they're just some of the things, obviously we've heard numbers 150, 100,000 or 100 million. And then I'm sure back end deals and
more than 100. Yeah.
Yeah. With this whole kind of thing. I've heard different numbers. But at the end of the day, it really, and people are also saying, man, give this guy unbelievable credit. He's been doing this 11 years. He hasn't missed a beat. But again, that maps back to, because I'm a big combat sports guy, right? I've been following him for years. And because he could do it on his terms, it is that inspired action. Yeah. So it's not what most people think is, oh my God, look how dedicated he is. He is to on one end, but on the other end, he's doing what he loves. Absolutely. Right? So the candle never goes out.
He's able to create a platform where he gets to smoke weed, talk shit, and interview the most interesting people in the world and get paid for it.
Right. And
like,
yeah. And here's the other thing that I think is so cool, Dan, and I love your input on this, is if you talk to the professionals, some might say don't ever do a 3-hour podcast. No one's gonna. You're never gonna make it. Don't ever do over a 20-minute podcast. Depending on people's mindset in that. But I love that he just did it on his terms.
Got a 93% listen rate. Just 93% listen rate on a 3.5-hour podcast. Think about that.
And I don't know if you tell me if you've heard the same thing, but I understand too that Spotify is working on a video platform like YouTube. Have you heard that?
Yes.
Okay, so it probably is pretty accurate.
They're more likely to acquire one though. They're working on it, but they're more likely to acquire one and merge them together because it takes too much money and time to build things when you're that large of a company. It's the same reason you see like a major corporations buying juice brands and beverage brands and snack brands, and they always buy them for 60 to 200 million, is because it costs them 75 million on average to build one and 2 years. So they'd rather buy it for 84 million and skip the 2 years and already have some distribution and just plug it in. Similar to Spotify. They can build it and they may be building it, but it's more likely than not they will buy a Vimeo or a VO or one of those second or third tiers and then just merge in what they've been working on.
Right. And now, either way, think about the impact and influence his personal brand, right? To have a company invest that, then want to invest however they do it, right? To now go video and audio, and then the opportunity that gives people like me. Now there's going to be multiple platforms. So in case YouTube doesn't like my content and shadow bans it or decides, hey, you're not for us, there's going to be potentially other serious outlets for the show. And I love your input on that.
I think he ends up one day being like a Jay Leno with a nightly show.
You think so?
I think he ends up with his own mainstream TV show. That's a late night show. That's exactly to what he's doing. And I think it's a perfect culmination where he still has his podcast. But I think he is a perfect character to have that 1 hour. He's been the host of Fear Factor. He's been the host on television his whole life. Right? He's the host of, obviously on the fighting organizations, but he's also been the host of television shows for many years. And I think he's the perfect candidate to be a late night talk show TV host. And there's a huge financial value to him to do it, but also personal brand wise to do it. I think he's one of the few characters that could do it. If you notice, most people that fill those spots are legacy. They come in for 8 to 25 years. They don't come in and like, we can name them. There's less than 10, right? Of late night talk show hosts. There's literally less than 10.
Yeah.
Name them. And so he is that iconic. And I think it makes perfect sense for him. If he's not already thinking about it, I think he should be.
Yeah. And then people are like, well, wait a minute. How did this even come about if they haven't followed him for this long? And if you think about it, he's doing what he's loved to do. He loves martial arts. So he got in and grew with a company that created a multi-billion-dollar platform, right? That kept them in the know, kept them in front, and then also his comedy world. Dan, share with us your thoughts on what that's done in 48 hours for Spotify.
Oh my gosh. I mean, their stock obviously increased a ton, which paid for the whole deal itself, by the way. I mean, that
right. A few times over.
Yeah. The 100 million is lunch money for Spotify.
Yeah.
And I mean, like lunch money. Think about it. If it costs, let's say they net $30 to $50 a user, okay, out of $100 for the year, for example, that means they only need like 1 million-ish users to come over there. Joe Rogan's got tens of millions of listeners per week. Tens of millions. So if this small of a percentage becomes Spotify users and pays the $100, by the way, that's just per year, right? So he actually only needs 1/3 of that. If it's a 3-year deal, he only needs 1/3 of that. That means they really only need a few 100,000 people to spend $100 with them. And keep this in mind, only for the 3 years. Well, people are going to cancel. They're not going to cancel after year 3, even if he leaves. So, because they still like music, they're going to go do other stuff on Spotify. So for them, this deal is not just free, it's making them a ton of money. Like a lot more than people think. I think they stole him at 100 million.
And that's a great, so this is my own personal question now for you. Now I'm being greedy. I believe you're 1,000% right, because let's just say the numbers are even close to correct. They're saying 30, I've heard up to 30 million he's made per year on his podcast alone. Okay, let's just say for conversation's sake, that is a fact. So now you times, and it doesn't grow another inch in the next 3 years, which is impossible, but it doesn't grow another inch in the next 3 years. Now you're talking $90 million, right? Dude, there has to be unbelievable things in place on the back end of this deal. If you had to guess, could you share with us what you think some of those back end deals might be?
Well, I think he might end up getting an affiliate deal for people that are listeners.
Okay.
If he gets an affiliate deal, that means he would get like a 10% rev share of their user.
Okay.
Let's say there's 3 million listeners of his podcast per week, and 3 million times $10 a month, assuming that's the amount that they pay, that's 30 million bucks a month. That means he would get an extra $3 million a month in theory. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In his math, he probably has 5, 10, 20, 30 million listeners. So the math can get really, really, really crazy. So affiliate deal would make a lot of sense, is just say, okay, for X amount of listeners, he gets a bonus of X percent, usually in that 10% range, of X percent of their gross fees. Obviously, merch should be much bigger than what it is, and Spotify could help create an entire merch division for him. That can be a huge business for them, huge.
Yeah, I mean, look at Logan Paul. I mean,
exactly.
Right?
I mean, huge. You're talking about tens of millions of dollars. And it's a brand that people just enjoy. Everybody in the UFC enjoys Joe Rogan. All his podcast listeners enjoy him. America enjoys him. You know, like the cannabis sector enjoys him. He's got different segments that just enjoy who he is as a brand.
Yeah.
So I think the merch category could go through the roof.
Yeah.
And then I think at some point a consumer product. And I don't know what that is, but there could end up being some kind of consumer product that comes out of this licensing deal.
Well, and supposedly he's a part owner of On It, the nutrition line.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So
with Aubrey Marcus.
Yeah, but obviously bringing that before this deal. But that's what I'm saying. Like, the more I start to overturn some stones, limited stones that I overturned, and you're saying exactly what I was thinking today, I'm like, man, that's a steal. There's got to be unbelievable deals on the back end of this. Bless you. There's got to be unbelievable deals on the back end of this to make actual mathematical sense, because what he's doing. But when I found out that he's just licensing, man, it's just it's awesome, man. What an awesome success story, man. And I love it the most because it's on his terms, right? It's
and been scratching the surface.
Yeah, I mean, it's been on his terms. So that's obviously the power of personal brands in the world we live in today. What do you have coming up on the horizon with your digital marketing firm? And I know you're probably chomping at the bit more than anybody for this pandemic to be over, so you can get back out on the road, and get out there.
Yep. During this time, I've been focusing on the online learning with 100millionacademy.com. I hired on a bunch of people to go full time, so I'm spending 6 figures a month of just new staff, of just like, hey, if you're held off on your job, or you got fired, or you're not sure if you like your career, boom, I just started being able to attract talent, which was great. And really focusing and honing in on that. It's a lot of work because we're building the Netflix for entrepreneurs, and it's a ton of work. Obviously, we go live every single day at 6 p.m. With a different instructor, and I'm doing almost every interview. So imagine doing a podcast every day at 6 p.m. basically. So it's a ton of work, but I'm obsessed with it. I really like it. I think that this is a big wake-up call for colleges and for families that are sending their kids to colleges. Do certain people need to go to college? Absolutely. Especially certain sectors, like certain things that you're focused on. But do you need a art history degree? No. I've never heard of a person with an art history degree get a job, so.
Right. let me just jump in. And more importantly, do they need that debt for that degree? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. But spending 30 grand a year for college is just, it's a number that just became too high.
Yeah.
And you know, like, I don't even mind the unforgivable loan part, is the fact that it's just too expensive.
Yeah. It
You
doesn't
know,
add up.
you can't have, you have 25,000 students at 30K each. What, you guys are going to do billions of dollars a year for this campus? Like, not counting how much they spend on rent and food. And I mean, these campuses are making billions and billions of dollars. God bless them. It's a great business, but it's a business. Like, that's not a, and so I like the fact that there's a big wake up call, and it's not going to affect Ivy League, right? Parents are always going to want to send their kids to Harvard and Yale, and right, like, they want to be able to say that at dinner. My kid goes to Yale. Like, that is not going to change, and it never will change. Those are legacy things. But those medium schools, you know, like, it's just, you're charging 38 grand a year to just go to like a okay school. I don't see it. I just don't see it.
Oh my, not even close. I mean, because you're walking away with nothing. I mean, you're walking away with debt, right?
I never hired a single person based on their college degree. I never asked about their college degree once.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah.
I hired hundreds of people from my companies and thousands of people amongst my companies. Never been a thing once.
Yeah, because you know what really works in the real world and what doesn't.
Weird.
So you really piqued my interest now. Netflix for entrepreneurs, dude. You got to give us that definition and give us that view.
Yep. So 100millionacademy.com is the Netflix for entrepreneurs, because we create hundreds of hours of content that people can watch anytime they want.
Okay.
Plus, we go live every single day.
Okay. So you create the content. What does that mean?
So we filmed content with 22 different instructors that all have 7, 8, and 9-figure businesses.
Oh.
So we filmed all this content where they're teaching different categories about cannabis, email, Shopify, Facebook ads, everything in between. How to build a podcast, how to build a brand, how to build this.
So is that what you did with Jake Paul?
Yeah, well, that's another one. That's similar. That one's for kids. That one we made.
Okay.
That one's free now. That one's for kids. Yep.
Okay. Oh, I got you. So, okay. So it's a Netflix for entrepreneurs. Let me ask you this, Dan, do you see yourself expanding from that genre, if you will? Do you see yourself going deeper in possibly reality shows and more of a bigger network, if you will, if you know what I'm saying?
Yes. So ideally, I would like it to be as mainstream as possible. That's my whole plan with this thing, is to make it easy and affordable for people from college age entrepreneurs up to senior citizens that just want to learn different types of content, but only from people that have actually built a 7, 8, 9-figure business. Okay. And it removes the fear of, like, I don't know if Becky C, she doesn't know what she's talking about, or I don't know if Johnny knows what he's talking about in the real estate space. He just got started. These are people that have all built true careers and businesses at the largest scale that are the instructors.
Okay. But do you see this, your baby, if you will, kind of what like Netflix does and Hulu is a reality show, not just training, not just content building for entrepreneurs? Do you see this becoming an actual mainstream network to where if you what's it, the Lion King or whatever, the Lion what was the one that just
Tiger King?
Tiger King, yeah. Do you see your idea opening having slots for shows like that?
Yeah, so I haven't decided yet. Right now, it's just wanting to be informational product. That's my main focus, is for information from people that have actually built businesses.
Yeah, love it, man. It's the definition of unconditional love, huh? Every time you come home, it's like Christmas morning.
Yep.
I love it. Do you take them on the road with you?
Yeah, when I can, yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. Did you rescue them?
Yes, both of them.
Awesome, man. Awesome. You're in SoCal, right?
Yeah, San Diego and LA.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love animals, and I love Hey, look at this guy. Look at that handsome mug.
This one
Look at
was
that
found,
handsome mug.
this one was found on the side of a freeway.
Really?
Yeah. My wife found him on the side of the freeway.
Wow. How old do you think he is? Any idea?
I think like 8.
Yeah. Yeah. My guys, I rescued him at just less than a year. And I think he's, if I had to guess, he's probably coming up to 10. But yeah, matter of fact, I have a canine supplement line. Yeah. Love them, man. Love them. They're my world. It's my boy. I know that I know you're a pretty busy guy. Anything that you can leave us with, Dan, that when it comes to branding in 2020, 21, 22, that people want to look out for?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to be omnipresent. It's to put yourself on every social media platform.
Okay.
They're all free. And even if it's not a platform you're going to use all the time, you still want to build your account on there so that you have a presence. There's a lot of times people don't realize that if they just put themselves out there and be on those platforms, they put themselves in a position to get lucky. So maybe you don't love to use LinkedIn, but you want to put your content on there. Maybe you don't love to. What the heck? I'm so excited because my wife's walking around. They keep wanting to go say hi.
Yeah, good boy. So you want to be omnipresent. Let me have you speak on this too. Is and I know you're going to obviously back this because this is part of what you do and how you build your brand. You just explained that to us. But the digital world, so important. The social media, so important. But so is the physical handshaking, right? Going to an event.
Absolutely.
Again, I went up to LA. We met. I introduced myself because, right? I went to these events. So talk about integrating both and how important that is.
Yeah, so you want to be able to tie into both. That's what's important, is that you can build your relationship in person and then nurture it online. So you might not see somebody again for another year. Let's say you go to one big event and you go to this one big conference, and then you might not see them for another 364 days. Well, in between there, you now have social media to be able to interact with them. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, etc. That never before in our history could you have that type of relationship and feel like you know them, right? And feel like you know what they like, what they don't like, what their puppies look like, what do they like to eat. Like you get to learn a lot about them via social media. And so not utilizing it is crazy to me. When people say, oh, I don't have social media, why? It's free.
Oh my God.
I'm not asking you to go create Gary Vee style content every day, but if you can post a couple of videos and photos here and there, keep people aware of who you are as a personal brand, people are going to guess what you are instead of you telling them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'd rather you tell them.
And I think the power of that, Dan, too, for people is now you're selling without selling.
Yes.
Right. And that's, I don't care. You could be the greatest salesman, like a Grant Cardone and part of your brand and everything else. But if you can, I don't care who you are, human beings, if I can tell you, would you rather be able to get this deal and sell without selling or have to be able to close hard? Listen, if we could take the cameras off, put the ego aside, everyone's going to say the same thing. Of course, I'd rather be able to sell without selling.
Of course, every time.
It's human nature, right? That's why we go to a physical networker and 90% of the people are like this.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? It's just because it's human nature. And I think the biggest takeaway people can get from this too is knowing your environment, meaning this is 2020, 21, 22. What is going on, right? And it's podcast. So again, I introduce myself to you. I have a giving hand. Now, instead of just saying, hey, Dan, I love your stuff and that's it, right? And the way that I was able to get connected with and just share, I'm just sharing this with people so they know it's real. So 2016, I was out in Arizona. Tom Bilyeu was one of the speakers. We met. 3 months later, I followed up with him on direct message, Instagram. He remembered me. And then he goes, oh, the guy without the sleeves. I said, yeah. And he said, so I said, hey, I'd love to have you on.
Yep.
I'd love to have you on Monster Motivator TV. He goes, oh man, my schedule's really busy. I said, yeah, but here's the beautiful thing. We'll come to you. He goes, great. Come to my place. I got a full, he just launched Impact Theory then.
Yep.
It was 2017. And yeah, again, Brad Lee, same thing, right? It's just leveraging what's today, man. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Yeah, leveraging what's today. Man, so I'm excited to see where the Netflix for entrepreneurs goes, and definitely excited to see what you got coming up. And once we can get past this craziness, this pandemic, I'll definitely be looking out for some of your events coming up in SoCal for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to get those back to life.
Yeah. Anything else you want to leave us with?
Just get started.
Yes. Yeah.
People overthink everything. They just we're in a society now and a time now with technology that for free or cheap, you can get started. Whatever you want to do. You want to build a podcast? Start it. You want to throw an event? Start it. You want to make clothing for puppies? Make it. Just start. Yeah. You can find anything you want online in seconds. Everything is just so cheap and fast now. It's not like when we were growing up. You and I it would take us 6 months and $100K to try to start a company. Now you can do it in 6 days with $700, right? You don't need. There's
literally no risk.
Yep.
Yeah. There's literally no risk. Yeah, just like the podcast. So I love it, man. And like I said, I before we went on recording this, man, I want to thank you for taking the time. Really, I know you got a lot of balls in the air. Thank you for taking the time. And man, it's been a pleasure to connect. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what you got going on in the next few years, man.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Dave.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on the platforms. If you're getting value from this, please share it. And we will be sending out the clips on this once the editing team gets it done. And as always, we do it one way around here, Monster Motivator style, baby. Ah!